right, Sam. It's just the
I don't
two of
know.
us now.
I
How
don't
are
know
you
how
going to
we
follow
follow
that one,
this.
my friend?
No, we don't.
Well, we'll have to bring like
Oh,
Daniel Roth on or something this afternoon to
yeah,
top
yeah,
that. Which we
yeah.
do. We have Sam's here now. We're going to talk a little bit about Maui, Blazor Hybrid, whatever.
No, please hang out with me. Don't leave me alone
Yeah, I will
after this.
definitely hang out with you. And then we'll bring Beth Massi on. We'll talk a little bit
Yeah,
more
yeah,
about Blazor Hybrid.
yeah.
She's working on something over at the Microsoft offices to help us get these Blazor Hybrid apps working with Blazor websites as well. And then later we'll talk to Daniel Roth about all the good things that came in Blazor and .NET 8 and what's on the roadmap for .NET 9. Some preview stuff is shipping, all that good stuff.
All right. So you are already into native land. Like, I mean, this was supposed to be all things Blazor, but kind of Stacy dragged you into native land. And when we say like we are welcoming web developers to web, mobile and desktop, what we mean is just come and share our pain, because it's like pain every step of the way doing native stuff. Beth is supposed to join us in like at the top of the hour, next hour, right?
Yes.
All right, so I got like 33 minutes to stay on time. I got like 33 slides to keep us company. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that after Stacy. Yeah, but let me see if I can share my screen, and we can just talk through some stuff
Tell us
here.
more about XAML, Sam.
The two things that I thought I will bring in terms of slides, because these were shared at Build, nothing out of ordinary, but just to rehash the story. So, in terms of as much as you know, Ed and Gill and Stacy and everybody would like to do web all the things, it's not what everybody else does. And to each to their own. Definitely, web is the most ubiquitous way of reaching platforms. But if you were to make client apps, a slide from Microsoft here, all the things you can do within the Microsoft space. This obviously doesn't include all types of client dev, but sure, Windows native, WinUI and WPF are getting some much needed additional love, which is kind of new. XAML, yeah, XAML is for old people, Stacy. It's like you either love it or hate it. There is no middle ground. So you can do modern Windows apps, and then if you wanted to do cross-platform, hopefully you're doing cross-platform in this day and age. Then you got all the things like Flutter and React Native and .NET MAUI is squarely meant for .NET devs to do their XAML and C# or bring in Blazor with the Blazor Hybrid story. And what I do like is they made a conscious attempt to bring in WebView too, because if you are doing just Windows, maybe you don't need to do MAUI. You can, embed all of this Blazor goodness inside of WPF and WinForms using that WebView too, and then you can do PWAs and other things with Blazor. So all good things happening. And this is what Dan Roth and everybody else at Microsoft will tell you. You choose which way you want to go. So if you want the broadest possible reach with the web, then go build web apps with Blazor. If you want depth, which is all of your iOS and Android APIs and Mac Catalyst APIs and Windows stuff, then go .NET MAUI native. But if you want to be somewhere in the middle, where you do want those APIs, but you do want to reuse your components and your styles in particular, then mix it up. That's the whole promise of Blazor Hybrid.
I like the reach part of that.
You bet you do. Okay, so
Yeah,
let me bring
there's
it.
some cool things we can do with that reach.
Yeah, you sure can. You can put it on Quest just for yourself. But let's talk about the native world here. Just as an FYI, because I struggled with this just this morning, because you don't realize all of the moving parts. So Stacy showed off all things in Windows and Android. I'm a dongle collector, like Ed says, because I'm in the Apple world. So every time you upgrade your dependencies, in particular Xcode, which is what has your iOS, and tvOS runtimes, you are moving the underlying pieces. So I don't know why they do this, but it gets me every single time. So in your Xcode settings, you have certain things called platforms. These are all the things that you can reach with this version of Xcode. And every time you upgrade Xcode, like there is no reason for me to stick to the older simulators, but they don't give it to you for, automatically. So you have to come and manually get the iOS simulators, get the watchOS and tvOS simulators. Like I don't care about the watch and TV right now, but therein lies Vision OS just for Ed. But make sure you have the right simulators.
Jeez, I don't even want that thing.
Make sure you have the right Android, SDKs. So there are some moving pieces. Just to know what to expect. Okay, so let's get going here.
Does it actually work on the Vision OS, Sam?
No, oh no. No, but I mean parts of it does. People have experimented, especially some of the web views might, but no, not officially. Do not quote me on that. All right, so VS Code. Let's begin. So we are talking about blending in web things with native stack, right? So one of the first things. Speaking of XAML haters in the chat room, speaking to you, this is not what God intended. just putting it out. But folks who do web, you love your Sass and you see your CSS, right? You can do all of that in XAML, except nobody does it because it's very niche and it's kind of feels weird to be doing it. But just saying, Ed, if you have CSS, you can bring it inside of .NET MAUI apps. Not a problem at all. Let me know if my fonts are big enough to read. So here is a straight up .NET MAUI app, okay? So, you might not recognize all of the things that .NET MAUI is doing for you. It's truly a single shared, source code. You have your app icons, your splash screens. Everything is shared across multiple platforms, including images and fonts, which are really nice. But in here is also certain styles that they drop. And again, if you're not careful, you're not, not even noticing that these things are there. So styles.xaml and colors.xaml. This is quite a bit in here, kind of like what CSS folks do anyway. So I have my primary colors, I have my secondary, my tertiary colors. I can define brushes for a variety of things in my app, all to get a nice consistent thing. And then styles.xaml has a whole bunch of styles, and these are XAML styles. Okay, for XAML haters, this is XML. Like, how bad is it? It's just XML with some special names. All right, so you got, for 24 or so different types of, UI components. You got their styles and their visual states. Some of them have visual states in them. So it's there for you. If you're not using any of this, empty it out because it's just going to be bloat in your app package that you don't need. But it's there for you to start things off. So I am bringing in a CSS here just to kind of showcase. This has been written up a lot in the docs. And in fact, one of the best ones here, let me pull up a window here. Look at that cute otter here for today. So if I do a .NET MAUI CSS, this is an article that my good friend Leo Morris wrote it up. So everything in CSS works with MAUI, as long as you know that there are certain limitations and it's not meant for everything. So here's a CSS that I'm just dropping. All it has is some background colors for different things. Now, just to kind of prove, here is my main page.xaml. If you look at the visual tree, this is how we build visual trees in XAML. You got a vertical stack layout, and I got UI inside of a tree, kind of like XML here or HTML here. But notice in here, this is a vertical stack layout, and I got images, a couple of labels and buttons in here. Notice how I can do all of these things inside of CSS. I can say every label inside of that stack layout, have it that style. Or this is like it's a named class, like my special button. That's because the button has a certain class name that I can give it. Or there is like I want the counter button, like a named element in my visual tree, to be that color. So what I'm trying to say is with all of this, and I can bring in my CSS just like that, like a content thing. I'm referring to it as CSS, and this will be marked as a CSS in my MAUI CS proj. If you notice, there's a way to bring in styles, and I can include that as a MAUI resource. And then I can deploy this. And sometimes you'll get into a case where your XAML styles will try to clash with your CSS styles. So XAML styles win if there is a clash. For example, this button, I have commented out this button because I want CSS to style that button, not my XAML class. So with that, I mean, I can just run this on a Mac here. It's going to look hideous, but just kind of showcasing that you can do CSS. Sure, you can open the app. It's desktop. And out comes a hideous MAUI app, but everything in here is CSS, right? So CSS is absolutely welcome. If you want to bring in less or Sass, just understand that you need to bring in some sort of a preprocessor because there's no Node.js. There is no, I mean, by the time the .NET MAUI build kicks in, that pipeline has to have, your CSS flattened out.
Well, if you want to bring in less, you probably need a time machine.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is, are CSS variables supported by
not all of it.
MAUI?
No. So going back to this article, she does a great job here, Lumerous, walking through what is supported and what is not. So there are certain actually MAUI specific CSS things. So these are the common things that apply to both web and MAUI. Now, if you're using things like the shell or certain MAUI specific things, there's a whole list of things that are MAUI specific that it works. Shell properties, limitations. So no.
Variables aren't support. Womp
No.
womp.
Yeah. So animations, I don't know. Like if you do it without variables, maybe, but it's an option if you want it to. Just saying, if you have a design system, and we'll talk more about design systems here in a second. But I mean, at least the CSS part of it should be something you can
Media queries don't work.
No, because we have our own media queries. We don't need you. We are a native app. Like we know everything about the devices that you're running on, right? So let me, take you another place here. So speaking of animations and design systems, so let's bring up this. And we try to help this UI and designer UX gap, developer gap. We have tried multiple things to help. This is called Theme Builder. So what this does is if you're using any Telerik or Kendo UI, UI in your apps, or even if you're not using any of it, if you're just using straight up Blazor apps or ASP.NET Core or React or Angular, you can still style all of your components and you can have some things built in Figma with variables and then bring it all into this theme builder. So this is our approach in trying to solve that problem. So it has all your customizations, custom Sass variables, and all types of styling. Just bring it in.
So there's a new feature that we just shipped for this, Sam.
Yeah, no.
And that is that we're embracing CSS variables with Theme Builder.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is awesome because you can do real-time theming of your app and no processor required, no Sass, none of that. You just change the variable in the Sass CSS code and live update the theme, which is really cool if you want to do like some really crazy thing, like use like Azure Cognitive Services to analyze an image and find like a prominent color and then take that color out and theme your app with that color. You can do stuff live like that now. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. We'll talk all about it. Ed, I'm doing a stream tomorrow where we'll unpack more of the mobile and desktop stuff. Maybe you can join me. I'm putting you on the spot on the internet. But next week, we're doing webinars where we'll cover all of this. But Theme Builder, if you just get in here, so if I create a new project, you can see like I got Bootstrap material, like all very web things, and I can start from one of those design systems, or I can customize it to being my own. This one here is using Blazor with some Fluent. Yeah, I don't need that. So, you can see up front how, web friendly this is. This is not for MAUI folks, although we are actually considering ways to bring this to MAUI. I'll show you how, but, genuinely as a XAML style. But in here, you can see all of my color palettes, all of my, data visualization effects, and all of the UI that at least we provide out of the box is right here. Now, this is a Fluent style, but the only thing I did was I changed the color palette here, the Kendo color palette here, to match the purple that .NET likes, because that's my .NET MAUI app, right? So it's going to have purple. So I just bring that in, and then for each one of those, like let's say a button, I can say, give me an advanced edit So I want to edit like how that particular button looks like. So I can get all of the different modes, and you can see all of the different styles and the different visual states in which how the button is to be clicked or pressed or not pressed, have focus or not focus. All of that good stuff is out there for you to use, and customize. And it's a long list of styles that essentially, adds up all of the components. And when you are done, you can hit the export all button up here, and it just exports all of that as SAS or CSS. So I can bring this in actually. So in my downloads folder, I have that zip file. And then inside of that zip file, I have distribution and then CSS and SAS right there. So I can bring this in, not a problem, inside of .NET MAUI app, especially if I'm doing Blazor Hybrid. Not native yet, but we are trying to see how we want to cross that bridge. But let me show you MAUI with a little bit of the Blazor customization in place. So here, this is a .NET MAUI app with Blazor template. So I have my pages, I have my root, I have my app-wide CSS, which is the classic Blazor CSS that you get. Nothing out of ordinary here. Now on the button, I've taken out the styles a little bit here because it does adhere to certain styles, because it does have Bootstrap inside of it here as well. Now here is MAUI program.cs. Nothing fascinating about this, just brings in the web view. But if you look at the main page, this one is just using Blazor Web View. And then let's actually go into the first index.razor page. So this is the place where we light up our app with all types of UI, web UI, right? It starts out with like a Telerik button here. Now notice you can do theming. I have just turned it off because I want to see my colors show. And in my index HTML, I did bring in that thing. So that CSS that you saw me do, Ed, it's just brought in here and dropped in my project right here. That's my Blazor Fluent.css. This is what I exported out of Theme Builder, and it's a lot. And it's as a native web developer, I don't want to touch this at all. I just want my designer to give me this stuff and not have to ever touch this again. It's a lot, right? And it's my design system. So with that, I can bring in that style, and then in my index.razor, I can drop all types of Telerik UI for Blazor components in here, and everything is going to have that style that I want it to have. So let's go to our main page here, and let's run this on a Mac. By the way, the reason why I go to some of the XAML pages is in VS Code, you have this little thing down here that controls where you want to deploy. So it gets a little confused if you're on a CSS file. It's like, is it a web app or I'm not sure. So just go to a XAML app or XAML page or a CSS CS proj, and it'll know exactly where to deploy that. So on a Mac, that's fine. Let's go ahead and run this thing. So essentially what we did was we went to Theme Builder, we imported all of our Figma thingies that our designer gave us, and then we customized it a little bit more, and then we just exported the whole thing as a CSS. And you'll notice this is all Blazor UI, right? But all of my buttons are purple because I changed the primary color. So my calendar, everything is purple. My drop-down list, that's purple. This blue comes because it comes from a certain theming. I can change that as well. But most things that Blazor uses in here, they're all purple because I'm just bringing in a style. Make sense, Ed? So
yeah, and you have an exception.
I do. Do you really want me to fix that? Yeah, I will. Anyways, so just CSS is very welcome, just so you know. And what Stacy was showing you, you could also do this. It just needs a little bit of prep on every platform. So let me show you that a little bit of code here. I have like a Blazor hello type thing. If I were to just start off from scratch, this is a MAUI app with Blazor. So what you notice is in my MAUI program.cs, there is nothing going on. I'm just bringing in the Blazor web view. These things can go away. Then in my main page.xaml, I'm doing just a little bit of thing, and Android is fine, Windows is fine, iOS is the problem child here because it needs extra permissions. So the one thing that web developers cannot live without is DevTools, and you can do DevTools within MAUI as well because you're just running Blazor UI. That's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is where if it's running on a Mac Catalyst, the web view that you get is called WK Web View. We're just saying, hey, can you please tell iOS and then the Mac runtime that I need to insert a string in my permissions to make it inspectable. That's all. So with that one line of code, I can pull up this app. This is kind of a Hello World app. So let's bring this up. And yes, open anyways. Okay, so Hello World Blazor app, right? Here's my counter. Everything works. What I can do is I'm within Apple's walled garden, so nice things happen to me, right? So in my Safari, why is iOS a problem? It's not a problem. I love iOS. It's just you have to jump through hoops to get the simplest of things done. So notice how it notices my, oops, phone call coming in. Cancel that. It notices my iPad that's actually connected. It's my second screen right now. Or here's my desktop, and that's my MAUI Blazor Hello. And this is DevTools, exactly as you want. That's the button primary color that I have changed it to purple. So, muck with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all you want. This is DevTools, just running inside of a, iPhone or an Android simulator or Windows or Mac. You can bring in, Edge web tools. You can bring in whichever web tools you're on, Windows or Mac. It all works. All right, makes sense, Ed?
Yeah, I like that you can use Theme Builder to like theme all the things at once.
It's
So
a
if you
web app.
have
It's
a
web UI, so
Blazor
you could.
app
Yeah.
and you've themed that to match your brand colors,
Yeah.
and then you have a desktop app that's built with Blazor Hybrid, you can theme that with the same theme, same CSS.
Yep.
That's also really cool. And then there's some overlap with .NET MAUI XAML component CSS. I don't know
Yeah.
how much of that applies to our custom components, but
And you can turn
it's
things off and
interesting.
on as you need. Yeah. Sorry, chatroom, I'm not following all of your comments because it's just I'm trying to get off here for Beth because she's got some good stuff, and maybe we can queue it up nicely for Beth to show us what the future might look like. Because the present, you can do all of this. Maybe it's not as fun. So I showed you a couple of ways in which you can bring in some styles. Now, when you try to bring in some web content inside of a native app, you don't always need to do things exactly the same way in Blazor Hybrid. So this is an app that we have been building on stream a little bit, and this is called Sands of Maui because every Monday, with like clockwork, you get a little bit of a thing from me, which is here are all the things that you need to know about .NET MAUI ecosystem for that week. So like 5 pieces of content that we just want to highlight. And there's Blazor blazing into summer, Ed, just to give you some love. So anyways,
Thank you, Sam.
you
And
can
how many issues of the Sands have you released?
146. So close.
146. Nice job, Sam.
Yeah, it's my Sunday evening jam on a couch. So if you wanted this, you could sign up and subscribe to a newsletter. But let's be honest, nobody reads emails. So I would like to have you, have this without going through the blogs or getting a CSS or RSS feed. So hence the app. Now
People
keep in
read
mind,
emails, they just don't read my emails.
yeah, I don't read any emails. So all of this is actually web content, right? This is clearly sitting on CMS. It's actually on Azure. What's the thing called? Cosmos DB, yes. So it's coming down from Site Trinity, which is our CMS, through Cosmos DB, and all of it. This is web, well formatted. I don't want to redo any of this work when I'm showing it on a native app. So you'll notice that I do certain things a little differently here. So let's first let me run this app. This is on an iPhone 15 Pro Max, so that's fine. Let's go run this, and I'll show you some of the hacks that you may have to sometimes do if you don't want to sign up to all-in Blazor Hybrid. Because Ed, there's no Blazor in here. It's literally HTML, CSS, JavaScript that I'm rendering. So even though I'm starting out from like a Blazor Hybrid type template, I don't need Blazor. I just need some web content that I need to render. So this list that comes back, this is actually completely a native list with virtualization and great scrolling and all that good stuff. There's like a little hamburger thing in here that has more info. But once you tap on a certain thing, right? So it's already cached. So this was quick. This is an actual issue. So this is web content, just rendered inside of a native app. But this is not Blazor, so I don't need Blazor. So again, keep in mind you don't have to do Blazor if it not doesn't warrant. But this one does have some CSS. It does actually have some fonts, and herein lies some of the challenges that you expect. So let's take you through a little bit of code here. So first up is my view. So let's start with this one here. So this is the first view that you see. Yes, it's XAML. Yes, it's a little verbose because it's doing a few things. It's got a busy indicator, and then this is essentially one big list view. And then once you tap on each item of that list view, notice that there's a tap animation. Not animation. Where is it? There is an item tap. So when you tap on that, we use some dependency injection to pick up the one that you post that you chose, and then we go to the second page. The second page is the detailed view. Now this one doesn't have anything in it because it's just plain web view. So it's just web content. So keep in mind, you don't always have to use the Blazor web view. It is very smart abstraction that knows how to deal with Blazor routes and Blazor components and navigation and styles. If you don't need any of that, you don't have to. This one is a straight up web view, which is kind of borrowed from what Xamarin used to do. It's just a web view, and it's just rendering that. Now in here, though, I am having to pull in a little bit of a few more web things in here because I am building up the HTML DOM that I'm just going to hand it off to the web view. And here I cannot just hand off a CSS. I cannot just hand off the fonts because all of your styles and fonts that live in MAUI, they're not automatically passed down to the web view when you're rendering web content. So I have a few extra things that I'm doing here. I have some utilities. Here I am reading a CSS file. I'm bringing in fonts from Google because I want it to be a specific, Open Sans font that I'm bringing in. So yes, I can have my styles or where are my styles exactly? It's probably in the raw folder. Yeah, so there is a style that goes with every CSS or every issue. This is something I'm working on, but you don't have to do Blazor Web View. You can just still read the raw CSS and just inject that into our HTML. Does that make sense?
So you're just grabbing web pages off of our blogs and
No,
then
not
kind of
no 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 no, not web pages. Just the pure HTML. Not even HTML content. Just the div tags, divs and headers and images. Just the
But this
pure
isn't an
content.
API to the backend system. You're scraping
No,
the
no, no.
web
It is an
content.
API. Yep, it's an
Oh,
API
okay.
that
Okay. So you're
skips all of this other stuff that I don't need. It just gives me like this piece
so
of
you're
content.
calling into the headless part
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
um, uh,
Sitefinity.
Sitefinity.
Yep. So
Nice. Okay.
getting the API
That's
out
what I
and
was
then
curious about. I
styling
couldn't
it.
tell if you were just grabbing like the URLs and scraping the content, or if you had
Yep.
the hooks for the
Yep.
back end. Okay.
Tyndall, thanks for pointing it out. It's not there in the stores yet because the app is kind of working. I mean, I would like to replace a few things. It actually does like local notifications. So like every Monday you get a notification that a new thing is up. But to Ed's point, we have 146 issues and I need to clean up and I need to make sure everything is lined up on the APIs. So the app is done, but the content is not quite ready. Give me a few more weeks and then I'll try to push it out.
So
Yeah.
Sam, when are you going to add a chatbot to the app so you can ask it questions about, what issue of .NET MAUI
Yeah,
has
maybe.
this subject in it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
If there were only a UI component.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a whole lot more this week and next week. But yeah, we are doing some AI prompts, and maybe if, I mean all of this data is sitting on in a CMS, so it's kind of perfect for any type of AI, Gen AI LLM to be able to
Mhm.
parse through all of that content, because I'm reading each one as I'm going, but then I'll kind of have to read all of them, kind of ingest it, maybe through like a old school machine learning thing, and have all of that content so you can search. So there's always more to do in an app, but just kind of phase one.
Sam, can you tell us a little bit about that yellow banner that's on that page in the
Yeah,
background?
I don't know what that is, but come and hang out with us next week is what it is. So June 3rd, we're going to do all things Telerik for all of the .NET stuff. And then what is it? June 5th is all things Kendo UI for React, Angular, Vue, and jQuery. And then June 7th is all things reporting, Fiddler, Test Studio, JustMob, and all that good stuff. So that's coming up next week. Okay, Ed, how much time do I have? Is Beth coming?
I don't see Beth in the green room yet.
Yay!
So if you
Okay,
want to take a minute.
I'll keep going until she comes and kicks me out. Okay. So let's look at more stuff here. So this we kind of get. What else can we look at? So yeah, let's look at this one here. So one of the questions that you might have is you're seeing Blazor increasingly light up UI on native apps, right? But what's the real benefit here? Yes, you can have web UI, but can you do native things with Blazor when it's running on a native app? And the answer is yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you this, right? So this is a .NET MAUI app with Blazor. Ed's probably seen this a million times, but it's just nice to show off here. So if I'm doing stuff inside of a Blazor component, in the past we used to have to do special like namespaces. So all of this is coming in because I want to utilize some .NET APIs that are .NET MAUI specific. So we are tapping into iOS and Android and Windows and Mac special APIs, and I don't want to have to write Java or Xcode or Swift, not Xcode but Swift or Objective C. So I want to write C#, and in the past we used to do plugins for Xamarin. Then we started doing Xamarin, just the one essentials NuGet package that brought in all of the abstractions, and then it became MAUI essentials and became so essential that it's not there anymore. It's just baked in. You don't have to do any namespaces. All of that is just done for you.
Oh,
So
nice.
here is a Blazor component, and I can directly invoke .NET APIs from inside my Blazor app. So device display and orientation. Let's go ahead and run this actually so you can see what it is. So this is main page.xaml. All it's doing is a Blazor web view. Let's run this. Yeah, iPad Pro is fine. So let's go run this here. So it's going to be Blazor UI inside of a MAUI shell running on a native app container, like an iPad or an Android app. So this one should look familiar to anybody who does Blazor Hello World. But if I tap on that button, you get all of this extra info, right? So what's the app name? What is it running on? What Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G, 5G does it have? What's the screen resolution? All of that very native stuff. It's just right there for you. So you can read all of that anytime from your Blazor app, right? Now you can do more here. So let me take you to the fetch data thing. So let me see if I can do a fetch here. Yeah, you see that? That's the iOS prompt. So this is what Stacy was talking about as well. You need to be aware that MAUI is a native app, so you need to do certain things for permissions on each platform.
Yeah. This can
So
be
this,
tricky.
yeah, no, this is just geolocation. So I know Blazor can read geolocation on a web browser, but you're on a real device, might as well. So that's the lat long that's coming in. So to pull this off, you're going to need to do info plist on iOS and permissions on Android. So here I'm just saying, don't say you're going to stop the user, but just essentially I'm saying, hey, I need access to your photo library. I need access to your location. That's about it, right? And then everything starts working. If I go into the counter component here, this is I see Beth in the green room. Hi Beth, we're going to bring you on in just a second, or you can come and kick me off. That's totally fine too. So I can go into my picture library deep inside of an iOS simulator, bring it back out, and this is still a Blazor view, right? And I can style it with some CSS as well, like it's kind of centered. So all of that came in through, let's go into the counter.razor component. That's an image tag, right? Just to please you, Ed. That's an image HTML tag that's showing an image from your
As
iOS.
God intended.
Yeah, exactly. From your iOS simulator. So you can do absolutely very, very native things from inside Blazor when it's running on iOS or Android. Now, Beth is here, so let me tell you how life is today. And then she's going to just drop the bomb and say, forget all that Sam said, because life can be so much better tomorrow. Uh, uh, Ed, do you just want to bring on Beth so she can laugh at
Absolutely.
me? Yeah.
Welcome, Beth.
Hey
Hey.
guys, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Cool.
We see you just fine. So let's talk about more stuff here. So I'm going to show you. So Beth, we have been on a journey since this morning. We had Gill talk about Blazor render modes, all the fun stuff, and how that's playing into the web, and as well as with .NET MAUI for native apps. And then Stacy Cashmore did the unbelievable thing of actually doing authentication and authorization for Blazor or on the web, as well as bringing it down to native .NET MAUI.
Awesome.
That was mind blowing. Yeah. So this is what you can do today, and do not tell Maddie that I opened up Visual Studio for Mac. It still works.
Okay.
It still works. Okay, so in my defense, I was on VS Code the entire time until you joined. I'm just trying to cut back
It's
on the
still
amount of time
supported
here.
until the end of August too.
Still
so you're
supported,
okay.
exactly.
Right,
Yeah. This is just quick to show because I can, very quickly switch up which project I want to run. So if you wanted to run Blazor for both your web apps as well as your native apps, right? So that's more of the reality, because if you're already doing Blazor, you don't want to give up completely on your web app. You want to, bring that to native desktop and mobile, and you want to share some code. So this is what Ed and me have been doing for the longest time, but Beth's going to tell you this is going to get so much better. But you can do this right now inside of Visual Studio. You can spin up multiple projects. This is one solution. I got some web projects in here, and then I have a .NET MAUI project with Blazor, and then this one is a Razor class library essentially. So we have moved all the Blazor specific things like pages and www and CSS. www still has to stay because that needs like index HTML to get up and going, but all of the Blazor components and styles and routes and navigation, all of that is moved out into this shared repo. And then when I'm running this as a native app, then you have to bring in, I think this is in the Blazor project. So let's go in the client app. So again, no pages, no components directory. Everything is just coming from the shared. It's obviously referenced from both the Blazor on the web as well as Blazor on native. And then we are bringing in that imports. That's it. And then all you have to do is make sure that these main layouts, which is how Blazor starts off, it's referenced and it knows which assembly to get the the nav things from. So let's go into main Razor here. So this is where we just point it to that shared assembly and say, hey, go get that main layout from that assembly, and then up and running you go. So what is easy for me is I can just change up where this app runs and change the startup project. I can do this in VS Code as well. It's just quicker here. So let's go debug this real quick. Oh, this is the .NET cert thing, local cert. And let's do that. Allow that. It's running localhost 5000, right? So let's go read that localhost 5000 right there. So that's Blazor running on web exactly as you want. I am reading the browser here just to kind of pinpoint where this app is running. I am also reading the window dimensions. Now, Ed would like everyone to stop doing JavaScript, but you don't have to. Blazor works beautifully with JavaScript, brings in the interop, and everything is good. Everything works exactly the way you want for web. But we can have the same exact UI, excuse me, now drive our app on native apps or mobile or desktop. So one quick switch of the startup project, and we can have this running on Mac desktop. That's fine. So same exact app, but same exact UI, but just rendered inside of a Mac Catalyst. This can also be, Android or iOS. The Mac Catalyst is essentially iOS. Here I'm reading the window dimensions, but very different way of reading it because now it's native and everything. All of my UI is exactly the same. Now, one of the ways in which we can work this really nicely is through interfaces, because we want different interfaces for different devices or different platforms our app is running on. So for me to get the platform name and the window size, I just have an interface, and then I have different implementations for this for MAUI as well as for Blazor. So same exact UI, same exact components, just rendered differently because it's doing different things on native versus web. So for native, we can go look at the service implementation. This should be super simple. Platform, I am already on native. I know everything about the device that you're running on. So I can read the platform name. I can read the width and height just like that. So
Sam, you're
super
basically
simple
doing my demo, so I don't need to be here.
No, I'm going to be setting this up for you just so it's so much nicer. People can just do this.
You said it all.
That's Sam's go-to move, Beth. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
We didn't give Beth a proper introduction.
No, so Beth, please do introduce yourself.
I am the program manager on the .NET MAUI team, but I've been at Microsoft a very long time in various roles all around .NET. So I'm happy to be back on camera. I was kind of behind the scenes for a little while. I was the director of product marketing for .NET for a long time. But yeah, 2 years now, almost exactly 2 years I've been on the MAUI team, and I look after the MAUI hybrid experiences.
And we are so glad to have you, Beth,
Thanks for
because
having me.
you're going to make tooling so much better. Yeah.
We'll see.
So this is for web apps. We started off, Beth, with some ways to bring in some CSS and some Sass if you want. We have a theme builder which lets you customize your design system. All of that is welcome because this is a web UI that you're essentially
Right.
rendering, but you can do all types of native things with that web UI. So this is the platform implementation on MAUI, and then if you look at how the web does it, Ed might disagree a little bit because I can do JavaScript if I wanted to. So this is my platform info for my Blazor app. So here I am bringing in some JavaScript just because I can, because it's also kind of natural because when you are in a browser window, like the browser knows everything about the browser window and about your specific instance of that app. So it's just easy to run like a browser service that goes into JavaScript and says, give me the width and height, and that's about it. So that is, I think, living somewhere here. Window dimensions, I'm just reading the window, like the browser window width and height. That's how simple it is for Blazor. So it all works. And actually, while Beth is here, this might be something that gets even better for you. Let me go back here, back to VS Code. That interop is actually really nice. So the name here kind of gives it away, Angular interop, right? Because that's what we want to do. So check this out. This is a Blazor app with.
Did Sam just pull out Angular on the Blazing into Summer
Yeah.
thing?
I was
Are
going
you
to
trying
on
to?
that, but you go for it, dude.
It's the reality. Look, I understand how much you love Blazor, but
Pitchforks and torches are welcome, folks.
okay. Prior to Steve Sanderson coming out with Blazor, if you wanted to do a modern spy app from 2010 to 2017, what did you do? You went with Angular or
jQuery.
React. No, jQuery. Okay, but let's just accept the
2002.
reality. Yeah. A lot of .NET shops have done React and Angular in the last 15 years. So all of those investments can also happily move forward. Yes, we have had PWAs. We can always do Electron, but Electron is only for desktop, and it can be a little heavy-handed. This is just so much nicer and lightweight. So I have an Angular app here, which is sitting somewhere here. That's my Angular CLI app, and I have built it. So I have this flattened out. So I have my index HTML, my polyfills, main, runtime, everything is flattened out, ready to go on Azure, ready to go on AWS, or wherever you want to host your app. But here I have just dropped it inside of my .NET MAUI app. And again, this is maybe a hackish thing. Beth is going to tell you this can also get so much better. But I have just dropped my Angular app inside of my MAUI app. The one thing I am keeping, so I am replacing the Blazor index HTML that Ed loves. Here's the div tag inside of which Blazor renders itself, including all of its routing and navigation and styles. I don't want to use that, but I do want to copy out this line because this little script does do some magical things in here. So here's my index HTML from my Angular app. All right, so got my polyfills, got my runtimes, but I include that interop in here. That's because I want to utilize what that brings in. So let's go to, this one, main page demo, iPad Pro. That's fine. Let's go run this really quick. And what you're going to see is a ng new Angular app just running inside of a, iPad. No big deal. Is it running already? No, it's coming up. There you go. So anyone do Angular will feel at home. This is just the Angular CLI app, but you'll notice that I have this one here, get device info. So when I tap on that, it says, hey, you're running on an iPad Pro and you happen to be on portrait. I can flip this and it'll tell me something else. I can put like listeners on it through my TypeScript code, in which case it will flip automatically. And I'm reading the screen width and dimensions as well. So again, very JavaScripty things, but just through .NET MAUI. So I have the choice of reading a .NET API or an Angular, browser API. Again, implementations can vary based on interface and how you have that implemented. So again, Angular is also welcome. And the reason why Angular is able to call into .NET is because in my appsaml.cs, I have a couple of methods here, and they are decorated by the JS invocable. This is the magical thing that Elon Lipton and all those good folks have built into the Blazor Hybrid Web View, which is super nice because I can just, so .NET and JavaScript, correct me if I'm wrong here, Beth, they talk to each other, but they don't like to. So you kind of you kind of bundle up what you have to, and you have to bundle up what you need to communicate and just throw it over the wall, and hopefully other person catches it. So the debug story can improve, but just with that one decoration, like JavaScript sees your .NET functions, and .NET can see your JavaScript functions. So it works, but this is kind of hackish. Things can get a whole lot better, which is exactly what Elon has done. So let me see if I can pull that up. I had it some time back and running. So let's close it. And Beth can tell me if more work has been done on this. This is called the hybrid web view. So where is that?
Yeah, I was definitely going to go through all that stuff too, but if you want to take it,
go for it. Okay. Okay, it's my jam to take.
I thought you wanted hybrid apps with MAUI. That's my talk, right?
All right. This is what we are referring to, and it's so nice.
Good, Sam. Yeah. When you go first, you have the luxury of doing that. So.
Well, I'm going to hang out with you, and
that's going to be hopefully a control we can get into .NET 9, and we're working on that now. And yeah, trying to make the experiences a lot better. I was going to talk a little bit to that, but not much because this is the Blazor thing. So I was going to focus on the Blazor stuff.
Ed needs to acknowledge the reality.
This is a safe space for people that may have PTSD from doing Angular in the past.
There you go. Okay, cool.
So look how easy it is. Like, .NET can call into JavaScript, and you can, show little, dialogues between .NET and JavaScript. They can call each other. Elon has this really nicely worked out. And if this can make its way into .NET 9 as a part of like one more abstraction that you can just throw in inside of .NET MAUI, yeah, why not? Why not? So here's the example that Elon had to show. Which is still here in my VS Code. So if you clone that repo, this is what you get. This is the actual hybrid web view, the actual implementation of it, and then this is a React to-do app that's just open source. It's there. So this is actually wrapped up and put inside of a .NET MAUI app. So that's actually sitting here in the raw folder. That's the source code for the entire React app. There's not much to it. And if you look at the index HTML, like it's flattened out. It's like this is not meant to be human readable because it's already compiled and it's ready for you to ship. Now, what is interesting here is like let's go run this. Actually, it may not run. It's been a while that I've run this. Let's see, because I've updated as one does. Beth, I updated all of the .NET.
I will not show this part then. No problem. You run it.
Oh, it runs. Okay, it runs. So this is React, Ed, just to kind of make it burn more because it's the reality. This is the entire UI is React.
Maybe I can pull that one up.
yeah, I've seen that too. So this is Eat Sleep Code. So I can add this. So it's very fast and fluid, and everything works. What is nice here is even though the UI is React, the backend of it, which is I think the reality for most .NET shops who do hybrid style apps, is you have .NET in the back. So you have APIs, you have SQL Server, you have Entity Framework. All of that can be worked in with Angular or React calling into .NET. So for this app, like the to-dos, like task, that's .NET. That's just a task. That's a POCO object. This is the to-do store, which starts off with those like three things, and then we're adding and deleting and editing things in here. So that's all .NET, and this can persist in whatever .NET or SQL type backend that you have. But this just makes it easier for you to, do that, cross that bridge between .NET and JavaScript. Because if you look at this main page.xaml, this is not using Blazor Web View. This is using that hybrid web view that Elon has. just makes things a little bit easier for you to communicate between .NET and JavaScript.
It's also mixing controls. There's a native control there too. So
Yeah,
mix and match.
absolutely.
So also, this example shows how you can communicate with your UI back and forth too. So
yeah. So take a look. It's all up on GitHub here, so you can take a look at this. It's still experimental, but we might see better times for this nice abstraction within .NET MAUI sometime.
Yep, we're planning on building an absolute control that goes in MAUI that's called Hybrid WebView. So it's a new control. If you look at the repository, you'll see the issues that Lon's like tracking his pull requests against. So we can see it actually building in. I'm hoping it gets in .NET Preview 5 or 6. It might be 6. I haven't checked with him on his progress yet. But yeah, it's going in there. It's going to just be a minimum viable product at this point. It's going to enable the messaging back and forth between C# and JavaScript. But yep, the idea is to enable a lot of folks we talk to have existing investments in JavaScript and want to build hybrid apps, or they can't find a particular binding for MAUI like that, like third-party bindings. Sometimes they just don't provide them for .NET, but they provide JavaScript versions, and so you can use that as sort of a way to implement like Stripe or things like that in your app that you need.
Yeah, it's all about choice. So I'm going to stop. How about that? Because I've talked for way too long.
Really?
But Beth, if you don't mind, I'm just going to hang out and give you a hard time.